Hi, my name's Mike Ruley. Dr. Shepard asked me to speak for a few moments about the value of studying international trade. Well, first of all, you're in college, so that means you have to study something. So the question is, why international trade? Well, if you're interested in going into business, if you're interested in finance, if you are currently majoring even in another subject, but have plan on working in business in some way or another, actually, it's critical that you have a sense of what international trade and economics generally is about. But, I'm going to think of it a little bit in terms of international finance theory. You have to do something with your courses. You have to take something. So what I'm here to persuade you of is that international trade theory is something you should prefer to take over some alternative course that you might be thinking of. Sort of half kidding, but actually not really. One of the values of, just from an academic point of view in international trade, is it's solving puzzles, and it's actually fun. You're solving puzzles in real time because we're talking about the real world. It's a very, very practical field, yet it has foundations has foundations in theory, and it has strong theoretical foundations. My own background is I've been 35 years in finance. I was at one major firm for 15 years. I was chairman of another firm for close to 7 years, and have been on the so-called buy side, or the quote-unquote hedge fund side, for the last 15 years. And I can tell you that understanding how international markets work is critical not only to someone who's in finance, but someone who works in a large corporation, frankly, even someone who might just have their own small business and themselves aren't even directly involved with trade, but are involved in products which are not necessarily produced in America. But I like to throw out a few puzzles. There's a few puzzles, or what I would call questions, that I've always found this method interesting, and if it were given to me or said to me prior to taking a course, it would certainly raise my interest. So, for example, I find it interesting that Great Britain is one of the largest producers of oil in the world. They have a great North Sea production area. Yet British oil is priced in dollars. Why is that? Well, that's something you'll learn in this course. I'm not going to tell you, because that'll just give it away. Maybe it'll take your interest away. But it's priced in dollars. Middle East oil is priced in dollars. U.S. oil is priced in dollars. It doesn't have to be priced in dollars, but it's priced in dollars. Why is that? Well, there's actually a pretty strong reason for that, and that will be something you will learn. We all know about the size of China's economy. China is I think it's the second biggest economy in the world. I think it just overtook Japan. But one of the things I find fascinating about the size of China's economy, that if you measure the entire output of China, just like if you measure the entire output of the United States of America, our gross domestic product, GDP, is almost 17 trillion. Actually, in 2013 dollars, I just looked this up. In 2013 dollars, it's 16.7 trillion. In the size of China's GDP, again, literally measured in dollars, is only 9.33 trillion. 19 versus 16. Now that might be a little surprising to you. I wouldn't be surprised that some percentage of you thought the economies are about the same. Frankly, I thought that the size of the two economies are actually closest to each other than that when I just looked it up. But in fact, the way we officially measure it is not 9.33 trillion versus 16.7 trillion. It's 13.3 trillion versus 16.7 trillion. Our economy never changes in size. Other economies change when we measure it in a different way. That different way is called purchasing power parity. That is something you will learn about in international finance and trade, and you'll also get a chance to think about whether that's a good way of looking at it, and what are the positives and what are the negatives. When I first started on Wall Street, started a firm that used to be actually a pretty good firm, called Lehman Brothers, and we were involved at the very outset of the currency swap and interest rate swap market. One of my colleagues had been looking at different borrowing costs in different countries, what you could borrow money in Switzerland, what you could borrow money in the U.S., and what were the interest rate costs if you borrowed it in whatever. You couldn't borrow in China at the time. You still can if you're a non-Chinese entity. But came to realize that through just looking at the different costs of different companies' cost of borrowing, that he could take Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage, which is a trade theory. It's simply, why do countries trade? Why doesn't everybody make the same thing? Why do different countries specialize in certain things? Now, obviously, big, giant countries like us specialize in a lot of things, but we don't specialize in everything. We're the best in some things, we're fifth best in other things, but there's the best. Someone's the best in something, or at least as good as anybody else in something. So the question is, why doesn't everybody who's the best at something control the entire market? Well, Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage actually explains that. It also explained how these interest differentials, interest borrowing costs, compared to each other. And this individual realized that if we could get one company that had an advantage in borrowing in Swiss francs, let's say, and another company that had an advantage in borrowing in the U.S., that they could actually swap interest rates and create a so-called arbitrage and lower their interest rate costs. And that was the beginning of what is now a I don't know, hundreds of trillions, who knows what the notional size of the swap markets are, they're huge. And so there was an example of just someone using straightforward international trade theory to realize, wait a second, there's an opportunity here. Now that's more common than you would imagine. It's less unusual than you would imagine. But other things. Why is it that the dollar has been strengthening so much against the euro and the yen over the last 6 months, really? And I think the dollar's at a multi-year high versus both of those currencies. Why is it in Japan today? The big political question in Japan today is, should they continue to let the yen fall? Now, the yen has fallen about 40% in the last 6 months. I believe, I might have my time frames wrong, but the yen, you could only buy 80 yen for $1 maybe a year ago. You can buy 120 yen for $1 today, and that means conversely, 120 yen can only buy $1 when you before could buy it for 80. Now that's happening purposely. In other words, that's a policy that Japan has undertaken, and it is an issue of conflict right now in politics, literally in politics, and Prime Minister Abe, that's his name, if Japan has called for an election this month, precisely over this issue. These are issues that happen daily in our news, daily in our business, and it's fun. It's like solving little puzzles. And I think I've noticed in Dr. Shepard's syllabus a number of so-called theories. I say so-called theories. They are theories, and they're real theories. But they're actually, I like to look at them as little puzzles. And once you realize the logic of what are often counterintuitive puzzles, it's fun to solve a counterintuitive problem. It's nothing more intellectually engaging than solving one. So you can have fun while taking this course. You will learn, and I encourage you to take this course, or certainly a course like this. If you can at this time, take this course. I encourage you to do so because its applications are not only practical, which certainly if you're going to work in any business-oriented environment, but they're ubiquitous. They literally apply to anything of an economic, it's everything economical, and as you well know, I'm sure, economics is impossible to be separated from political activity or politics. I just gave the Japan example. So if you want to understand economics, you want to understand the day-to-day element of business practice, if you like to solve counterintuitive puzzles, if you're interested in all of these things, then I assume you're looking at this video. And if so, I strongly encourage you to take this course. I think you'll have a lot of fun. Professor Shepard is someone I've known for a long time, and he teaches things well. He and I actually both taught courses when we were younger fellows back in the 80s at Columbia University, where we both got MBAs. It'll be a fun course. You'll learn a lot of important issues. You'll learn to solve economic puzzles. You'll understand why why conflicts occur. At least many conflicts occur. And just, one final example of a conflict: oil has gone down. That's a good thing, isn't it? Isn't it good that oil goes down? Wouldn't it be good if oil went to zero? Well, it depends. I think so. But if you're a seller of oil, you probably don't think it's a very good idea. And if your entire economy is based on oil, you probably don't think it's a good idea. And World War II, in part, had some of its roots in the fact that oil became very expensive relative to certain currencies in Asia, and petrodollars, however you want to look at it, oil can be a cause for political chaos. In the United States, low oil happens to be a very positive thing. If you asked Vladimir Putin whether the decline in the price of oil were a positive thing, I'm sure you'd get a very different answer, because oil is a bigger part of their economy, and they now have to sell in dollars, by the way. And the dollar price of oil has gone down. So there's virtually nothing in politics, nothing in economics, hardly anything, certainly in any corporate business you can be involved with, that is not impacted and is not intellectually satisfying and interesting to study as it relates to international trade. And I therefore encourage you to sign up for this course, and I hope my 5 minutes, which turned to 14 minutes and 14 seconds according to my iPad, did not change your mind but changed your mind for it if you were on the fence. But thank you very much.